On this video we're going to do two things. We're going to show you how to replace the front seal on these VE pumps. Sometimes they leak after being a bit old, but it doesn't warrant getting the complete pump rebuilt. And also how to set the timing up if you've taken the pulley off inadvertently, you know, without marking it up. And this is the most important thing what you're going to do. So you'll need a few bits and pieces of tools, I'm afraid, because there's no way around it. You're going to need a timing pin or a 10mm drill, and you're going to turn your pump. Now this is a bad pump. There's something wrong with it. So you're going to turn it till it's on its firing stroke and insert the pin. You are not going to lock the pulley up with the pin to undo the bolt. The whole purpose of this is to mark the shaft with your Dremel. Alright, what you're going to do, seeing we know that's it top dead centre, well, at its firing stroke, we're going to put a very slight mark on the shaft. I don't know if you can see that, it's not very good, but I can see where there's a mark. I can see there's a mark there. And that allows us to then, we know approximately where the position of the pulley goes, because these pulleys don't have a keyway in them. Well, they have the pulley shafts have a keyway, but the pulleys themselves don't have a they don't have a keyway in them. So it makes it kind of interesting how to put them back on again. It's most important that you mark them up so it's on the right firing stroke. That's the important thing. Get it on the right firing stroke. So the next thing we're going to do is undo the pulley nut. Now, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we take our pin out. And we're going to simply clamp it in the base. We can use an air tool, and if you've got one, and spin it off. But I'm going to show you a couple of little things. You won't damage anything because there's nothing to damage. 22mm key. There you go. So that's loose. Now we'll show you some other things whilst we're here. This is actually a later pump, and this one has been put together. It must have had the exhaust gas recirculation on, because it's got all this fancy gizmo up at the top here, and it's been robbed of the cap, it's been robbed of the switch, robbed of all sorts of bits and pieces. But I'll take it to bits and clean it all up and reseal it. Clean it all up. But the thing is, it's a good for demonstration. It's good for demonstration. So we've got the nut off. What we're going to do now is one of two things. Well, we're going to do both things anyway. We're going to lock up the shaft. How do we do that? Well, put the nut back on, because we've had that off. Turn our pump, because now that's loose, it'll come off quite easy. Right, here we go, and we're going to turn our pump again. Put the pin in. Now we can turn our nut off. We can do two things. We can just spin that, put the three-legged puller on and pull that pulley off at the moment as it is, or we can do this. On the side of the pump here, there is a 7mm Allen headed bolt in there, and on this pump there is a 10mm Allen headed bolt with a little plate on it. Now this is the most important thing. If you want to take the seal off without adjusting your timing, let's do this here and I'll show you why. So the pin's locked into timing, we're cool. I'll let that one come out. Ooh, bloody hell. I'm going to have to nip it in the vice, I'm afraid. So what you get with real-time things, and I don't want to damage that bit, so we'll clamp it. Where are we going to clamp it? We'll clamp it on there. Oh, I'm going to have some problems. Because usually you do this in the car. Oh, bloody hell. Tight, eh? Spin it back out. Back up here. Right, so get that nut off. It's probably easier to get it off on the car. And that bolt out of there. Like that. It's a very fine threaded bolt. It could be 12mm, I'm not sure. Anyway. For now, I'm just going to swap this over. And you see that bit fell on the floor, that's the important bit. On the older pumps, you used to get this type of pin. It's exactly the same, except it had this little washer behind. So in order to lock the shaft up, all you do was take this out and then tighten it up and it'll lock the shaft in place. So this is why I'm using this one. It's the same thread. I'm just going to lock that up. And that will keep our pump timing in the correct place because it pushes on the side of the shaft. Where's that ball I've just taken out? You see, this one's too short, but the other one had it was a bit longer. Again, I'm trying to use tools that you guys would have. So I've nipped that up now. Tell you something, I'm going to get a 13mm key and tighten that thing. Let's put that in hand. Bolts are a bit loose on here. It's really important if you're sort of going to do one or two of these pumps is to get a little mounting plate because it makes life so much more easier. I've described how to make one of these just using a template of a gasket, but that's how you make it. So, now, with a bit of luck and a bit of jiggery, you should be able to get that pin out. And if it doesn't, we just back off the screw a bit. I can't show you both at the same time, so back off the screw a bit. Turn that a little bit, take the weight off it. And then your pin will come out. And you see now, it's locked up. So, put your pin back in to take your nut off. Because you can see now we've taken all the tension off that nut. It's not too bad. And then we can take the pin out. And then we don't damage the housing. So that's off. So now if you want to replace your seal, we're on a good road because we haven't changed the timing at all. We haven't adjusted it. So what we're going to do now is you probably can't see, but I've put a little tiny mark there. Now we're going to use our three-legged puller to get that off. Now this is a real royal messing about with this thing. Get it on. There we go. Now, I'm going to use an air gun to get this off, just to save a bit of time. But get your tool set properly. Try not to get, you won't be able to get it onto the notch, but stay well away from it. But what I try to do sometimes is, I'll put a bit of tension on it, because they are sort of super tight. Oh, I tell a light came off straight away. But sometimes you have to resort to warming the flange up with a propane. Well, it doesn't really matter, but you know, sometimes they're mega tight. I wonder if this has been off before. Anyway, the interesting point is this, and I'm going to take it out of the vise. We've set that shaft at should be 154 lift for this pump. But take note, all of you have taken the pulley off without knowing where it goes back on again. Look at this. This is only approximate, it's not actually timing. The key here, the keyway here, goes around to about the 4 o'clock position. Now, I think somebody's had this off before, because if you look very carefully here, there is a little tiny mark. Yeah, somebody's had this off before. There's a little tiny mark just here, and it shows it's in line with the key. I would just wonder if it's on all the rest of them or not. Let me have a look. So the answer is no, but it's a good thing to bear in mind in the future that the keyway goes down here. So again, somebody's been kind of smart, had this in bits before, perhaps put a seal on because that looks quite new. Put a little mark here as well. So when if you do inadvertently undo this bolt on the side, loses timing, then you know that the keyway goes down here. So it's going to fire here, here, here and here. So it's something to watch for. Because sometimes, I know a chap in Australia took the front pulley off and he had a bit of a job trying to put it back on again, because as you can see there, there's no keyway in it, and I tell you something, he was really lucky because he could see where the keyway was inside here, but unfortunately on this one I can't see where the keyway was, like, because sometimes it makes an impression. So good thing to note and bear it in mind. Now, to replace the seal, that's a nice seal in there, we don't really want to change it, but I picked up these tools the other day. I thought I'd give them a go. They're sort of like a little whirligig type thing that you pull inside, then you pull the seal out. And there's a little tiny one here, and then there's a bigger one. But notice they've got little flats on them here, rather than a point. So they go under the seal. I've never used them, let's give them a go. Right. How is that going to go? This isn't going to work. That's not going to work. No, that's not going to work. They're too big. The shafts, the space between the shaft and the actual seal itself is too large. I could use that one, but I feel as if I'm going to break it. Yeah, I'm going to break that one. So, to get that seal out, I think what we're going to have to do is put a little self-tapping screw in there and pull it out. So what I did was, with a very small drill, I drilled right between the shaft and the body through the seal itself. See if we can zoom in. Probably make a complete mess of this. So I drilled a little hole here. It's kind of difficult to see, isn't it? There. So there's a little hole in there. A little small self-tapping screw. And screw it in to the hole. Now we need a pair of pliers. With a pair of pliers, we've got to now try and tease that seal out. Ooh. Now we need a bigger screw because that's ripped out. Just wait a minute. We'll get him out. Now, what about this chap here? Boy, they are tight. Hey, wait a minute. Now we've got a hole in there. Useless. Don't buy these. Look at that. It bent on this first attempt. These are particularly weak tools. They bend so easy. If you can see that. So I'm going to have to resort to some other method of getting that seal out. This is going to be fun. You know, one of them jobs you wish you never started. I need something to pry off. Now, real time, eh? So what I did was wait a minute. So you can see I drilled through it. I didn't damage the shaft because there's still some rubber on there. It's getting close, but there was no damage to the shaft. So now we can replace that seal quite easily. I'm not going to do it now because I haven't got one. But that's how they get sealed out. To put the shaft back on can't be simpler now. Let's pretend we've put a seal in. Put that back on. Pump on, pin in. Just nip that up a bit. There's my spanner gun. Yeah. So we just nip that up a bit. Now we're only going to nip this up because what we're going to do now is turn everything round. So we're going to turn the camera around and we're going to put the gauge on and we're going to put the timing correct. We take the plug out of the back of the pump. Between the injectors there's a great big nut and then there's this little plug here. And then you need a dial gauge, because if you haven't got a dial gauge, if you want to set this accurately, well, don't bother, because you'll never do it with a how do we say, a vernier caliper or anything like that. You need something that's a bit accurate. Now I put my wire brush in here because I didn't want to damage the markings on the side of the pump, so I'm kind of stuck really. So we just nip that in and we make sure that this is nice and free. So let's turn that back a bit so you can see, and let's zoom in a bit. I hope you can see there. So what we're going to do, we're just going to nip that nut up there just a little bit, take our pin out, and then we're going to slacken off this nut here, and this will make our pump go backwards again. Oh, you'd think I'd planned this, wouldn't you? So if you saw that, it's a bit difficult to do. So the pump's gone back, so there you go. So that we need to zero, like that. Alright, so that's zero. Then we turn our pump until it gets onto the firing point. One, Now 154 is the proper point. We're going to turn ours to 160, and then we're going to lock that pin back up. Pin. It's already been set to 160 because it's the disco pump.